As I hope the majority of you know by now, Real Home Recording, myself, I am a virtual street team member of Acustica Audio, which means that they will send not for resale licenses for all their new plugins, and in exchange, I should make videos about their new products. Their newest one, released today, that's right, I'm not waiting a month or two to review these plugins. Today, Tiger came out. Now this is the flat version, and we have the 3D mix version, then we have the flat mix version, then we have the full regular old Tiger, then we have Tiger flat 0 latency mode, and we have mix flat 0 latency. And what that means is if you look at down here where it says SPLS, it stands for samples, look how lower the amount of buffer is required. Look at that. So that's the normal plugin. And then if I go to the ZL version of this plugin, it drops down to 68. Now I do need to adjust the size because for some reason the default is, I'm going to guess 1.5x. So I'll hit 1x, close the plugin, reopen it, and it should be able to fit my screen. Okay, good. So this plugin, from what I've read with the preview, is that it is a chameleon compressor plugin. So if I click on here where it says mode, here's a list of, these are all compressor modules that are in other Acustica Audio plugins. And what this plugin is, first of all, it is the first plugin release for the Core 19 technology from Acustica Audio, which incorporates something called Hyper 2 technology. Essentially what that means is they used audio hardware samples like typical Acustica Audio plugins, but then they filled in the gaps which were previously left open with algorithmic interpolation, to put it in simple terms. At least that's my understanding of it. The bottom line is these plugins are less of a burden on your computer processor, and they are more faithful and accurate to the audio hardware that was sampled. And this plugin in particular has a ton of hardware curves. We're going to get into that. This video is just the user manual, so it's technically an RTFM video, which is a series of videos here on Real Home Recording, which stands for Read the Manual. And yeah, so I'm going to read the manual so you don't have to, because look at this. Look at all these knobs. Look at all these buttons. I need to learn how to use this plugin before I can do a proper demonstration. And instead of me sitting here by myself reading this, you guys can join in with me and we can save each other time. Well, I'm going to save you guys time. I'm not going to save myself time. But anyway, the bottom line is I'm so excited to be using a brand new Acustica Audio plugin on the first day of release, which is not something I've done in a long time, and I miss it. And I'm hoping that this compressor lives up to the hype, pun intended. Let's go. Okay. So we got Easter egg green with a wonderful looking white tiger as the cover. Tiger is the first Aqua plugin suite in Core 19 based on our second generation Hyper technology, encompassing a superlative collection of Acustica's most renowned compressors. Recently, we have witnessed the proliferation of software dedicated to dynamics. The trend in recent releases often focuses on overcoming the limits of analog compression while maintaining the musicality that has always distinguished it. In the latest products, sidechain management has improved with more complete equalizer chains, or enhanced with simultaneous control based on independent detectors to handle transients and the sustained part of the signal. We have put together our experience to try to solve this problem according to our vision. The idea of Tiger is to put together our models and some very recent concepts to create the best possible experience for our users. What is Tiger not? Tiger is not a compressor trying to imitate a specific vintage item. The idea is to have a chameleon-like object. Oh, come on, bro. The idea is to have a chameleon-like object that tries to imitate them all, overcoming the limitations of each. If you want a replica of a specific product, we certainly have a particular thing that is more relevant in our catalog. Although at the moment, the vast majority of Acustica Audio's products have not been updated to the Hyper 2 technology / Core 19, but eventually they will be. We did not include final clippers and brick wall limiters in the signal path so as not to replicate the functionality of other products. The result would have been to complicate it unnecessarily and duplicate functionality already found elsewhere. By the way, Giancarlo made a note on Gear Space. I keep calling it that. Gear Space. And he said that this plugin was actually supposed to come out last month in December 2022, but they weren't 100% happy with it, so they delayed the release until this month. It was supposed to be released along with Ash, which I haven't checked out yet, but I will. And here we go. This just goes into what's included and shows you the GUIs on screen. The key features of Tiger. Tiger implements a long list of compression curves accurately sampled from the best analog compressors and software. We have found that this is a relatively rare added value in software implementations. Often these curves are clean, synthesized, modified, and are not the actual result of a sampling operation. In this respect, Tiger copies Ash's strategy for clippers, but in the realm of compression. Cool. Very cool. Tiger implements the shapes of attack and release curves, attack and release, in the detectors from the best hardware we have measured over the years. The multi-segment shapes endow the product with program-dependent characteristics, auto-attack and auto-release on steroids. Tiger implements in its detectors modulators of the shape for attack and release times, SHMOD, SHMOD, coming from the best software. Yes, this time software as well, and hardware attack and release curves we have analyzed. It's the first time we have introduced release modulation in one of our products. Very cool. I don't really know what that means. I'm sure I've heard it plenty of times. I think, if I'm going to guess, it means that the release changes within the time frame, and previously that didn't happen. Maybe. I know what reverb modulation is. Tiger implements a hold functionality for both the attack and the release. This combined presence is also quite rare in software compressors. Tiger implements multiple variable weighted detectors for handling transients simultaneously concerning the rest of the signal. This is also a program-dependent feature, and that's a great thing because I know that the compressors with Acustica audio technology either couldn't do it or had trouble with program-dependent temporal emulation, we'll just say, meaning that a lot of compressors that are program dependent, meaning that they will, depending on what is being fed into the signal, the attack and release will vary dependent on that. That was not included in Acustica Audio's products before, and apparently now they are with Tiger. Great. It's actually a huge thing, huge deal. Tiger implements a concept of a managed fast compressor and slow compressor to balance aggressive and soft compressions within the same pattern precisely. Okay. Tiger implements an integrator, power, in the detectors to parametrically manage transient response speed. That is a technical mouthful. Oh my goodness, I had to try that one 3 times to get it right. In contrast to a purely peak or RMS compressor, Tiger can represent compressors that implement detectors based on variable pitch RMS power measurements. Again, I don't know what that means, but cool. I'm sorry, I'm so dumb on this issue, or ignorant on this issue. I really don't know what that means. I know what the peak and RMS means. I guess power is just another way to detect the signal strength. Tiger implements a circuit in the sidechain path deep space dedicated to optimizing distortion in the presence of fast time constants. Oh, that's cool. You can't do that in hardware. Tiger implements a true look ahead on the attack, thus independent of the release, that can optimize distortion in the presence of fast time constants. Nice. Tiger implements a relatively comprehensive sidechain equalizer based on a high-pass filter and a dual semi-parametric peak or shelf-type equalizer, and accepts external sidechains. Yay! Does it really? Hold on. It sure as poop does. Look at that. Oh yeah. Tiger implements sophisticated oversampling, yes, which has become a distinctive feature in the latest products we have released, characterized by a particularly transient-friendly impulse response and zero-phase alteration. Nice. In each signal path, each dynamic element is independent of the input channels. In fact, Tiger consists of 6 separate compressors. Wow, they weren't kidding. So let me bring up Ash to show you guys what I haven't talked about yet. Okay, so this is Ash, and here's all the different GUIs that Ash has. And if I click on mode right here, I can change it to all these different ones. I thought the GUI updated. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So as you choose the different ones, Ash has a ton of analog to digital converter samplings that engineers who have this expensive equipment would push signals into and clip just a little bit, just shaving off, I don't know, a decibel or two, maybe 3 decibels. But that's what Ash is all about. It's something that's been done before, but not with Acustica audio sampling. And as you guys know, I just love Acustica audio quality. You know, even though it eats up a lot of CPU, now the newer Acustica audio plugins don't eat up that much CPU. It's a beautiful thing. Oh, and by the way, I do have my Reaper set to buffering off. So, yeah. But anyway, this is Ash. I haven't tried it out yet. I will be in the future. Hopefully the near future. But yeah, that's the idea, is that this is the Clipper plugin with all these different modes. And now we have Tiger, which is the compressor. Now, I believe this is not necessarily just for mastering. It's also for mixing and just, you know, whatever you want to use this for. Aquamarine optic. Ooh, they have an opto compressor in here. They got nickel. Ooh, this is going to be interesting. I like, you know what I like about this? I like that there's options, but I also don't like that there's options because I'm really an LA3A, LA2A fan. This is a lot of knobs, so I get the feeling that people may not be as receptive to this plugin as other ones, but I'm glad that this exists. I'm glad that we have a ton of control. I mean, I guess you just set it to whatever you would normally set this to. So like, you know, this is the SSL bus compressor, I assume. So let's say you normally do 4:1. I'm trying to think of what the gold settings are. So you do 4:1 ratio, and then I think the fastest attack time, the slowest attack time, I honestly can't remember. I'm going to have to bring this up. Okay. So the slowest attack time is 30 milliseconds. So somewhere around there. And then the fastest release was 0.1. So I don't know if this is milliseconds or... So this is 100 milliseconds. So I'm going to assume... Well, there's just so many controls, and again, that's why I'm reading this manual. So, you know, let me get back to the manual. But yeah, you guys can see just with that little bit of showing off these settings. Let me get this down to, let's see. Oh, well, this is like the easier mode, I guess. Let me keep this one up. It's a little bit easier to show you guys the mix one. And I bet you if I made mix flat 1.5x, I bet you it looks a little bit better. Or a little bit bigger, I should say. Huh. It already was that size, or was it? Oh, maybe I did ZL. All right, let me try 1.5. Mix flat. Mix flat. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's what I wanted. So we'll flip back and forth between these, and I'll bring up regular mix. So it does look like this is the simpler mode. Instead of having all these other knobs up here with saturation. But we'll get to that later. But this looks like what I kind of was looking for, where it's not just going to be in my face with... I mean, how many knobs are on this? Let me count. 28 knobs, I believe, and then a handful of buttons, but, you know, this is the much easier to use interface. It's kind of like DC 8C from Klanghelm, where there's the easy mode and then there's the advanced mode. So I'm glad that they included this in there. Wow, it keeps going. Tiger implements an intuitive morphing control that allows each of Tiger's dynamic elements to be seamlessly transformed from a compressor to a limiter to a saturator while simultaneously handling the stereo link intuitively. Tiger implements skins with 3D graphics and flat 2D graphics for lovers of fast and intuitive interfaces. The interface is highly responsive with a sidechain path, signal delta, and bypass listening. Awesome. Tiger also implements low latency versions, especially without oversampling, as the latency is relatively low, especially for the Tiger Mix version designed for tracking. Tiger includes resizable and responsive GUI. Tiger has a great and distinctive sound. If this is your first time using Tiger, if you are a Tiger virgin, keep in mind a few simple rules that will help you appreciate it thoroughly. Even if the attack or release time doesn't seem particularly fast to you, even setting the minimum value, remember that the successive attack and release modulation and power controls allow you to overcome any limitation and arrive at instantaneous compression. Depending on oversampling, it is possible to achieve sub-microsecond times with the lowest possible harmonic compatible distortion for the same compression curve to be applied. Sampled compression curves can often look similar to those that a digital compressor can generate. At a closer look, they often implement softenes that are not easily replicable, and sometimes some small details can lead to a dramatic difference. Even the slope of the curves are often not precisely the nominal slope intended by the developer. Okay, so I guess that's for people that use Plugin Doctor and try to overanalyze everything. That's what that note was for. If you are looking for a modern sound, our advice is not to enable the preamp. If, on the other hand, you are looking for analog warmth, Tiger allows you to solve this problem as well. Okay. Cool. Tiger is a powerful compressor consisting of two separate dynamic units. The left unit is peak type, but it can be configured differently as well, and is based on faster time constants and is dedicated to the transient part of the signal, while the second is RMS type, has slower time constants, and is addressed to the sustained part of the signal. All right. And there's signal chain or signal flow charts, which if you're viewing this on Adobe Acrobat, you can rotate it by going to View and then clockwise or Shift Control Plus. Okay. And then here's the other signal flow chart. It's going a little bit off screen. Okay, now I need to rotate counterclockwise. Tips for using Tiger at its best. Managing the stereo balance of the input signal. Adjust the input left and input right controls to balance the input signals according to the RMS in, left and right values. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, so it's these knobs right here. This one and this one. RMS in, left and right values. Okay, here's RMS in. Why is this one on the left side? That one's on the right side. It's a little bit confusing. And then RMS out is change on both. I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense since this is the left side and this is the right side, but got to get used to it, I guess. Sidechain signal adjustment. Use the sidechain signal to listen using the sidechain equalizer button. If necessary, select the external sidechain source. All right, use the sidechain using the sidechain equalizer button. Oh, right there. It's a hidden feature. Adjust the sidechain gain using the sidechain volume control if necessary. That's this right here. That's input left, input right. There's the preamp button. There's the side chain. And here's a trim and a bypass at the top. By the way, thank you to Acustica for putting the size option on the upper left side, because if it wasn't there, a lot of people can't even touch that control. When you put the resizing all the way in the bottom right corner only, it can cause major headaches for users. It is possible to equalize the sidechain signal. It is helpful to perform this step later, in general, by reducing the amount of low frequencies or making the mid-range more obvious. The compressor will have a less pumping effect and less noticeable distortion, so the compressor will compress the low frequencies less. Tiger has a high-pass filter and two semi-parametric equalizers configurable in peak or shelf mode. Unlike other competitors, Tiger also allows equalization interventions. Set the fast compressor to solo via the solo button. Okay, right there, I found it. Select a sample dynamic function through the mode menu. The list includes VCA, Varimu, and even digital compressors. The compressor type relates to the so-called static mode of compression, which, together with the ratio control, mode dependent, allows you to select a particular signal reduction curve. In general, Varimu types or lower ratios allow for more transparent compression, while opposite types and higher ratios create a more noticeable compression effect. In general, this depends on the softness of the knee as a direct result of these two choices. Okay, so as I'm going through these modes, watch the ratio button, because that's what it said it would do. Yeah, so that it's gone. 2 to 4, 2 to 1, 4 to 1, and 10 to 1 are left. Ultramarine, looks like there's no ratio at all. Tiger RA 1593. This is based off of a General Electric hardware. And I can't remember which one, but if I remember to put it down below, I will. Magenta B, Oh, I forget these. These are all manly, not massive passive, but manly compressors. So the massive passive is included in that. Where is it? Wait a minute. No, the Varimu. So the Varimu, I think, is C1 and 2. And if you look at the ratios, that should come out in some way. Oh, the ratios aren't showing up. What's up with that? Is there no ratio for these compressors? Okay, well here's pink, which is an API, something, maybe a 2500, maybe something else. I don't know. And there's 3 different knees, that's great. Blonde CM2, I don't remember what this is. There's an unofficial Acustica audio master list out there, and I'll link to that if I remember to below. Cream, again, watch the ratio buttons. The ratio knob as I'm changing through these. Gold. Nice. Very nice. Ivory. Is there an easier way for me to do this, or I have to click the menu? Nope, I can't just use arrows. Aquamarine optic setting. And then here we go. Oh, look. No way. This is the 1176. If you guys could see my eyes right now, they just got really big. Wait a minute. Can you choose in between ratios? No way. If that's true, this is awesome. I cannot wait to see if this does the all ratio buttons in. If I can smash some drums with this, I will be a super happy person. Nickel is the 1176 emulation. Unofficially, nickel is the 1176 sampling, we'll say. All right, so we'll put this back on. Oh, they even have presets. Look at this. Like artificial intelligence presets. All right, we'll put this back on sand to make it simple. And then on this one, I don't know, let's put it on. Wait, is the ratio gone? It's going, yep. So the ratio just disappears on these others. Like the name even goes away. Like on here, ratio at least sticks around. You know, the word ratio sticks around, but on this one, it's like, nope, peace out. I'm just a knob all by myself. Sorry, I'm having too much fun with this. Let's see. Number 3, using the threshold control, the GR fast control selects and monitors a level of signal compression. If the compressor is engaged at the master bus level or in a mastering session, try not to exceed 10 decibels of reduction. A typical value is around 3 to 4 decibels of maximum compression. There are no limits to creativity for other uses, but interventions greater than 20 decibels of gain are generally not recommended. And that's true even for audio hardware. Very rarely can you get something like that. You know, maybe something like a gate stay level, maybe an LA2A or LA3A, but even then it just doesn't sound good. Number 4, you can intervene on attack and release times via the attack and release controls usually found in Dynamics compressors. A low attack and release value allows for more responsive compression with less pumping effect at the expense of harmonic distortion and perceived transient. As a general rule, the attack control enables you to act on the transient. Lower values reduce the transient, while higher values emphasize the transient. In contrast, the release control allows you to work on the pumping effect and signal distortion. Select the modes you feel are most musical with the most pleasing type of compression, because other Tiger controls will allow you to refine this choice. Number 5, take action on the makeup control to balance the input signal with the output signal according to the relative gain reduction meter. 6, it is interesting to experiment with the power control identified by the small wheel with the letter P. All right, let's look for that. Right here. I found it right away. My eye went right to it. Okay, and then on this one, it's right here. It's very tiny. This is mix flat mode. See, this is easier to see the controls. I might actually use this more than the hardware looking one. I mean, I like the hardware looking one, don't get me wrong. It's cool looking. It's like vintage with the look at these old rack mounts. These old rack ears. But yeah, the flat mode it's just easier to see everything compared to this. But I don't know, I like both. I really do like both. One request I would have is that when you, let's say you choose magenta, if the GUI color changed or something, even if it, this word magenta C1 was a different color, something along those lines. But I'm cool with it. I love the fact that there's all these compressors built into this thing. Let me open up Tiger Flat. I'm curious to see what that looks like. Okay. So yeah, this is definitely easier to see everything. It just doesn't look as fancy, But everybody has their preference, and I'm very glad that they offer both options. Absolutely. Tiger allows for variable integration of the exponent used in the detector, leading to a more responsive and transparent behavior of the detector as the value increases at the expense of perceived distortion. Acustica, look, guys, I've been doing this. I've been doing audio engineering on a professional level since 2008, 2007. You confused me with that one. I know what it is, but like the language is just way too nerdy, too techy. You're going to have to make some videos to really dig into these subjects. You're talking about the sidechain detector, which is the main way a compressor works. But to most people, they're going to be like, what? It's, when they read that, they're going to their eyes are going to be glazy looking, and you're going to lose people with this feature. So, anyway, PU consumption is considerably low when value 1 and 2, the lowest setting, is selected. All right, let me see that one. And see, here's the other problem now. Nice, beautiful interface, but nothing pops up to indicate where exactly it is. Okay, I can see 1 and 2 on this one, but why not on this? I mean, 2's obviously in between 3, and then 4's in between 3 and 5. One day, Acustica will have that, the pop-up come up like other plugins. But that's fine. You know what? You got to use your ears and all that. So as the order increases, attack times shorten, so the detector becomes more sensitive to signal transients, but the real release value will increase. No problem. Tiger allows you to get around this with the attack and release shape modulation controls or the morph control. See the section on the power function for more information on this topic. Take action on the attack shape modulation control via the SHMOD attack shape modulation control. See, I thought SHMOD meant Ash, like the Clipper plugin, but I guess not. Attack shape modulation. Attack a S shape, or SH shape mod modulation control. Intuitively, values below the middle position reduce the transient, while higher values emphasize the transient. If the attack is in the minimum place and the SHMOD is in the minimum, the attack time becomes 0 and the compressor turns into a limiter. Cool. You can imagine this control as a tool for controlling the transient. See the section on the SHMOD function for more information on this topic. Number 8. Wow. Act on the release shape modulation control as opposed to the attack. Okay, so A for attack, R for release. Release shape modulation. Values less than the middle position. All right, let me see this control here. Okay, so it's down here on the 3D GUI and right here on the flat GUI. And then on the mix GUI right here, SHMOD, release SHMOD. I like that there's a a space in between this now instead of all being together. That's good because it keeps the A and the R separate. And then if you look attack, release, that's good. And then this is what it looks like on the 3D GUI. Right there. Right there. Values less than the middle position tend to warp the release to make the compressor more aggressive and colorful at the expense of more perceived distortion. In comparison, larger values tend to decrease distortion while making the compressor less aggressive at the same time. If the release is in the minimum position, the SHMOD is also in the minimum. The release time becomes 0, and the compressor becomes a saturator. Nice. One can imagine this control as a tool to control distortion and aggressiveness in the compression action. Okay. Number 9. Intervene on the morphing control via the morph control. All right, let's find that. Okay, morph is down here. And I guess it's a separate left and right. And then down here for the flat, I don't see it on here. So there's no morph control in the mix plugin as far as I can tell. If I'm missing it, oh, here it is. Oh my goodness, it's it's like huge in the middle here. That's why I couldn't. I'm like looking at all the other ones, but not this giant knob. Okay. Can I reset this? There we go. Control click resets everything, I'm assuming. Yep, control click. And then for the mix 3D, morph is right here. Oh, wait a minute. How come that was all the way to the left? That's weird. So should it not be? What's the default setting? Default settings compressor. But when I control click, it goes to the limit mode. You know what? That might be a bug that should be fixed. That's my guess. I'm going to have to remember that and send it into Acustica. All right. Moving on. Intervene on the morphing control via the morph control. That was worded a little bit weird. Which allows you to change the type of dynamic action from compression to a limiter to a saturator. In detail, the limiter action makes it possible to effectively increase the loudness value of the signal, while the saturator action turns Tiger into a powerful saturator. Especially in the latter circumstance, it is beneficial to set an appropriate oversampling value to limit aliasing, that is, non-musical and unwanted harmonic distortion. See the section on the morph function for more information. Number 10. Use the mix control to determine the dry-wet signal amount. The control helps create a New York compression effect where the process signal is mixed with the dry signal, effectively reducing the apparent ratio of the compressor. They had ratio twice here. New York compression is particularly valued on drum buses. By the way, I need to make a little note here. So New York compression actually uses two things. Number one, yes, blending it in with the original signal, but also you have to adjust with high shelf and low shelf filters on an equalizer, because there tends to be a loss in low end and high end. So you use that in combination with parallel compression, which is the original term for it. And yeah, awesome. So where's the mix control? Okay, right here. So that's that for the mix, and then the flat, it's down here. Okay, so when you control click that, it goes to the appropriate setting. Tiger, the normal 3D one, it's down here. If I control click it, it goes all the way wet. Tiger flat, same position. And then mix flat, I think I already did this one, but here we go. Number 11, intervene on the oversampling value to reduce aliasing and unwanted distortion. In general, An oversampling value of 2x or higher is recommended for a mastering session. In the case of pure compression, morph in the comp position. At least 4x or higher in the case of limiting, morph in the LIM position. And at least 8x in the point of saturation, morph in the SATU position. In the case of a master bus, a half value might be correct. There is no rule for the possibility of individual tracks. In general, high oversampling values allow better handling of harmonic distortion. Tiger has oversampling based on linear phase filters, and as such, they do not introduce alterations in phase response. In addition, we have selected oversampling filters to optimize transient response. It should be noted that at higher values of oversampling, there is a penalty in transient response for better handling of harmonic distortion. However, values up to 16x have a negligible impact. I don't even think it goes above 16x, does it? Okay, 16 on this one, 16 on this one, 16, 16, 16. Is the oversampling like in different spots? No, it's the same for the first two, but then on this one, it's upper right here, and then middle right on this one. Number 12, use the DS button to improve compressor response at critical values for attack and release. Okay. Is that normally on? It looks like DS is on by default. Number 13, cycle back to step 2 until a satisfactory result is obtained. What? What? I don't understand that one. Sorry, I don't understand what that means. Compressor adjustment only. Set the solo compressor to solo via the solo button. Okay. Okay, right here. It's very easy to miss that button. Adjust the slow compressor, taking into account that the power control is absent. The detector operates in RMS mode only for the slow compressor. There is no dual detector as in the case of the fast compressor. Okay. The hold mode related to the SHMOD control is disabled. Okay. Blend adjustment between fast and slow. Lift the solo mode of both compressors and manage the balance between them via the blend control. Okay, right here. Blend control. Default setting is at 0 up the middle. Interesting. Managing a dual compressor in parallel allows you to optimize the dynamic action, focusing on handling dynamics in successful steps. Milder handling corresponds to mixed control between a virtual wet signal, fast, more compressed, and a virtual dry signal, slow, gently compressed. The power of Tiger lies precisely in this additional control to balance the dynamic action. Sure sounds like it, because I don't think I've ever seen anything like this on a compressor before. A plugin before, I should say. Maybe I have, maybe there's a plugin I haven't used yet, but very cool. And my phone's ringing, so I'm going to take a break right now. Output signal management. Number 1, it is possible to manage the output signal volume using the output control. This way you can balance the signal by comparing the RMS in meters with the RMS out meters. Okay, so we got output left and output right, and we have 24 decibels of range. Wow. That's a lot of gain. I don't have any audio in here now. Okay, good. I wanted to make sure that I didn't have any audio potentially going through that with such large gain. All right, adjust the output L and output R controls to balance the output signals according to the RMS out, left, and right values. Okay. Controls. The attack time of the second detector tends to be 10 times longer than the first. We sampled the attack shapes from the best hardware compressors. We are speaking about complex curves, not basic exponential ones. The actual times vary according to the input audio program and the current state of the detector. 1.2 what? Oh, milliseconds. Okay, so these are all milliseconds. That's another thing they should have on the GUI. Usually they'll have MS on the last number and maybe on the first number. So milliseconds. Or is that microseconds? Well, either way. Sets the compressor's release time. The range depends on the compressor model selected. Okay, let's look at that. If the range is different, then I'm not seeing it. Okay, 1K2, so 1 second and 200 milliseconds. 1K would be 1 second long. And then these are all 40 milliseconds. Okay, in-depth discussion of the power function. Here we go. So this setting right here, the little gray knob, well, the other ones are gray too, but this one doesn't have, this one's tiny, probably because you don't change it very often. The power function allows you to change the general characteristics of the detector. Power ranges from 1 to 5, where the value 1 corresponds to the typical peak type detector. The times written for attack and release are calculated on the peak mode and are derived from sampled curves from the best existing hardware compressors. 2 is the default setting of the plugin, and if you control click it, it does indeed go back to 2. Tiger allows for variable integration of the exponent used in the detector. It goes from the normal peak condition, represented by the modulus, jeez, to the RMS, mean value of signal power, i.e. the square root of the mean of the square of signal values over time, to cubic RMS value, power 3 to power 5. The integrator continuously represents the RMS value of order n, or more simply, RMS value n. I'm not a mathematician, so I am just as confused as most of you probably are. There are 2 important considerations to take into account. The CPU consumption increases when a value other than peak and RMS is selected due to internal optimizations of modern microprocessors. In general, it doubles, and it should already be considered that the fast detector itself consists of 2 detectors acting in combination. We have structured the control to intervene from order 1 to order 5 to allow for an intermediate position centered around value 2, easily reached with the control click command. In this way, values 1 and 3 are easily achieved. As for value 2 in Tiger, it is represented by the slow detector based on the fixed RMS value, order 2. In-depth look at the SHMOD function, SHMOD. This alters the shape of the attack envelope. Okay, that makes sense to me. Allowing you to fine-tune the attack behavior to adapt it to any audio source. Shape modulation on the attack allows the detector's attack curve to be deformed based on curves sampled from the most powerful software and hardware compressors. In particular, values lower than the middle position tend to reduce the transient, while higher values tend to emphasize it. Okay, so we have a transient shaper in this plugin as well. That's great, actually. In the case of the fast detector, where 2 detectors are in action, the lower value at the first quarter of the knob stroke also leads to a single detector, gradually reducing the balance with the second detector. In short, at the lower position of SHMOD, the fast compressor is reduced to a single detector. In general, Minimum positions of SHMOD tend to reduce attack times to 1/10 of their nominal value, while in the opposite case they tend to double it. In the case of a minimal knob position, if the attack value is also minimal, there will be a null/instantaneous time, also corresponding to values less than a microsecond, depending on the oversampling value. The positions above the middle of the knob stroke are of particular interest. From the center to 3 or 4 of the stroke, the amount of hold of the attack gradually increases. In an envelope detector, the attack is the time required for the output of the circuit to reach the maximum value of the input signal after a sudden increase in its amplitude. On the other hand, the hold function forces the time required for the output of the signal to maintain its value after a sudden increase in the amplitude of the input signal. The visible result, or should we say the audible result, is a tendency to preserve transients, avoiding compressing them if they are shorter than the hold time. In Tiger, the time is also proportional to the current attack value. The hold function related to attack differs from that of release because it is dependent on the threshold value of the compressor, whereas in the case of release, it is independent. When the hold function is active, once the amplitude of the input signal exceeds the threshold, the output of the circuit will remain at its value for a predetermined period, regardless of further changes in the amplitude of the input signal. So, as a general rule, transients that exceed the value set by the threshold and are shorter than the hold time are perfectly preserved. Caution: once the threshold value is exceeded, if the detector does not make it in time to stop compressing because, for example, the release is too large and thus crosses the threshold level again, subsequent transients will be compressed. Finding a balance between threshold level, hold, and release time is essential for optimal transient behavior. That sounds like something Rupert Neve would have said. Alright, now let's look at the SHMOD function. Alters the shape of the release envelope, allowing you to fine-tune the release behavior to adapt it to any audio source. Shape modulation on release allows the detector's attack curve to be deformed based on curves sampled from the most powerful software and hardware compressors. Specifically, values below the middle position tend to increase pressure at the expense of distortion and color. In contrast, higher values tend to reduce pressure for less harmonic distortion and more transparency, but with a more significant pumping effect and less compression. Generally, minimum SHMOD positions reduce release times to 1/10 of their nominal value, while in the opposite case they tend to quadruple it. In the case of a minimal setting, if the release knob setting is also minimal, there will be a null/instantaneous time, also corresponding to values less than a microsecond, depending on the oversampling value set. Okay, so basically this is the same darn thing as attack, but the opposite. And you're just going to have to listen to it, is the bottom line. In-depth look at the morph function. This control allows for a continuous action of further deformation of the detector's attack and release curves. In the first half of the run, they deform the attack curves, arriving at an attack time of 0 length. In the second half, they bend the release curves, coming at a release time of 0 length. Interestingly, the deformation of the attack and release curves maintains the previous proportions, including not only the shape, but also the balance of the hold control. Wow, that's a lot of language. Notably, in the first part, the type of linking of the stereo channels input to the detector also changes from a linked mode to an unlinked mode in the middle position. This is useful for creating an ideal limiter. The detector channels must be completely independent. So in the lower settings, we have a perfect compressor with stereo link channels active. In the middle, we have an ideal limiter. In the second part of the run, however, the release handling changes until we arrive at an ideal saturator where both the attack and release times of the detector are 0. Some clippers and hardware saturators have a release tending towards 0, but perfectly zeroed out. And Tiger succeeds in recreating this type of experience. Ooh, that sounds like some 420 level stuff right there. Anyway, moving on. In audio, New York compression is a sound processing effect that aims to replicate the sound of recordings from the New York City recording rooms of the 1960s and 1970s. To make the audio signal more consistent and controllable, compression is used to reduce the dynamics of the signal, putting it in parallel with the unprocessed signal to make it less obvious and more balanced. Absolutely. It's a trick I like to use while mixing, no matter what the source, and it also works really well. Okay, here we go. DS control. So this right here that I'm turning on and off stands for deep space. And we're going to find out together why. Following the strategy used in other compressors on the market, an offset on the sidechain signal makes it possible to achieve lower attack and release times with the same harmonic distortion. This happens because signals that simultaneously have a lower value of intensity and frequency tend to create less stress in the compressor detectors. Unlike some competing products, we have included this feature in the sidechain signal path only to limit the impacts on the output signal. Bypass button bypasses the whole plugin, input trim, a one slider internal gain structure control linking the input and output stages with an inverse law. The control sets the input level from negative 24 decibels to positive 24 decibels of the plugin, and it is used to adjust the plugin's internal level. Note, when the preamp stage is bypassed, off button enabled, off button lamp is on. What? I'm confused by this. Anyway, I think what they're trying to say is when the lamp is off, like right now, the preamp is off, and when it's lit up, it's on. Okay, that's pretty obvious, but I'm glad that they at least tell you that. Anyway, the input trim mode has no effect. Okay, so it's all tied into the preamp. It is possible to increase the harmonic saturation with this input trim knob. Cool. Very cool. Output knob. And again, this is not a trim. This is an output gain. And it has 48 decibels of range. So be careful. Threshold knob. If you've used a compressor, and if you haven't already, I don't recommend starting with this one. Anyway, these knobs behave differently depending on the type of processor selected, saturation, compressor, or limit. They increase the distortion in saturation mode, sets the threshold of the compressor in compressor mode and limiter mode. Okay, and then we have the makeup gain. Let's find that one. Okay, right here. Starts at 0, goes to 48. Wait a minute, what? Gain range from 0 to plus 24 decibels. Okay, so why does it say 48 not 24? I'm a little confused on that one, I'm not gonna lie. Listening modes. Default listening is the LR setting, and then I believe the triangle means delta. Listen to the difference between original signal and compressed signal. And then here we go. Tiger compressor modes. This control allows you to select between 11 different and mutually exclusive compression modes. And here's the list on screen. I'm not going to read all of them. And I will say that if I remember to, I will link to the unofficial Acustica Audio master list. And if you look these names up, now I don't know what tiger means, but or deep space, but all these other ones will be listed on there, and maybe one day the other ones as well. Ratio button. Sidechain EQ. Here we go. Press this button to activate the sidechain EQ function. So on the 3D GUI, it's right there. On this one, it's right there. Let's see if there's one on here. Well, there's that, but I think in this mode, you only have the high pass and the low pass filters. That's my guess. Oh, and then for the 3D GUI, it's in between the HP and LP, low pass and high pass filters. Sidechain EQ, I just talked about that. External sidechain button enables use of an external source as the signal feeding the compression detector circuit. Awesome. Every compressor should have that. Blend knob allows you to blend the desired amount of dry signal. Nope, this is wrong. This is wrong. It needs to be corrected. Manual writer person. So it actually blends between the slow and the fast detection circuit, unless they were trying to show this knob, in which case they need to change that. Which, no, it says blend. That's not what the blend is. Gain reduction meters, fast and slow. Press this button to activate the sidechain EQ function. Gain reduction meters. What? Press this, but wait, what? I think that this was supposed to be under the sidechain EQ. Oh, yeah. Okay, so here's, sorry, this is another user manual mistake. So I'm gonna, this whole page right here is there's issues with it. Page 24. Display the input and output levels of the plugin, range in and out. Okay. Is that what this was supposed to be too? No, this needs to be fixed. But gain reduction meters, essentially it shows you how much your input signal is over the threshold setting. So when you're adjusting this knob right here, obviously use your ears, but also you can look at the gain reduction meter and see how much you're getting. Size menu, adjust the whole plugin GUI size. Choose between 3 magnifications, 1x, 1.5x, and 2x from the top left size drop-down menu. Once the desired size has been selected, the plugin must be removed and reloaded in order to apply the new size. This action affects the currently selected plugin. New instances of the same plugin will open with this size. All right, great. Oversampling. Okay, well, in here it says it goes up to 256x, but I don't see that myself. It only goes up to 16 as far as I know, so that must be a another user manual error, or maybe they removed it after they realized it was using too much CPU, who knows. But this plugin, as far as I can tell, only goes up to 16x, and I just checked every single GUI and that's all I saw. So unless it's on the ZLs, let me look at that. Nope, it's 16x on every single one, unless they change it. Okay, and this shows you how to download and install all the products and all that other good stuff. Oh, here we go. Appendix 8.1, about the gear. The starting point for this suite was the sampling of a vintage Varimu tube compressor. In all probability, one of the oldest and most durable gear sampled by Acustica from our research. It was rented out to film studios around the globe from the 1930s all the way down to the late 1960s. The American manufacturer of this beast was at the forefront of audio technology in the area of film, and because of this, they offered trained technicians on a 24 hours, 7 days per week basis. So not only did they sell the technology end of things, but also the service end of things. Something to think about in this day and age. In regards to the original compressor, operating level is at plus 12 decibels, meaning that the levels of this monster operated in were enormous. As such, it is capable of delivering a maximum of 72 decibels of output gain. In order to tame the beast, 2 input attenuators were implemented in order to bring it down to a plus 4 operating level. One fixed input attenuator, the other one variable. The sound of the hardware really stunned us. It is magnificent. Invisible, if there is such a word, with a bit of tube euphoria included in it. A real gem, all the more reason to absolutely want to sample it. All the instruments on which we have used this unit emulation have benefited from the sonics of this outstanding dynamic processor. In particular, bass guitars and lead vocals. Roar. I like that. Hold on, let me go back to that. So I don't know, what are they talking? Are they talking about what's referred to as Tiger RA 1593? Because I don't know what deep space is. Deep space is the default mode. I'm wondering why they didn't put Tiger as the default mode, but I guess that's also where the preamp comes from. And that's it. So I'll leave you guys with this image of a tiger. It kind of looks like a lion, doesn't it? I thought it was a lion at first. Anyway, a tiger at a keyboard. Really, really close to the computer screen. Anyway, I can't wait to play with this plugin, honestly. Like, the mix plugin is probably what I'll be using the most because it's just simpler to use and it's bigger. And yeah. But I'm really looking forward to messing around with this. You know, you can make this plugin as advanced or as simple as you want it. Just don't touch certain things and, you know, just worry about your attack, your release, your threshold, and your ratio. Or if you want to really dig deep in, you mess with your morph, you mess with your mods, your high pass filter, your low pass. If you really want to dig into it, you mess with this, your sidechain EQ that's built in, you know, so this may be, actually, I'm going to say that this is a more versatile compressor, maybe not as easy to use, but a more versatile compressor than a distressor. Let's, in the future video, hear if the quality is as good, if not better, than a distressor. But, it's a possibility that Tiger becomes my go-to compressor in the months and years to come. We'll find out. But I do like that it includes such a large variety of compressors. And I'm going to have to really dig in to find out specifically what all these mean, because it's been a while. I know obviously Ultramarine's a Fairchild. Sand is an SSL bus compressor. Magenta is Manly Labs, pink is API, blonde, I can't remember, camel I can't remember, cream I can't remember, gold is Neve, ivory I think is, oh goodness, it's been such a long time, aquamarine is Shadow Hills, nickel is a 1176, Universal Audio 1176, so awesome. I'm very curious if I can have in-between ratios for the 1176 and also for this as well, because I believe these are fixed ratio settings on the hardware. So very cool. Very, very advanced compressor. I'm going to say check this out for yourself before I try it for myself. And I'm looking forward to this Hyper 2 technology, trying it out. You know, I've only looked at it. I went through the manual with you guys. I might be using this. Who knows? We'll see which one I like as my favorite. You know what I do like about this is it's a LED gain reduction meter instead of On this one, it's an analog one. Sometimes it's just easier to see it when it's an LED. But yeah, I really like that this is, the threshold knob. Why is the threshold knob giving me some graphic glitch? I'll have to send this one into Acustica as well. But again, this is version 1.0. Technically, Acustica released things early so that all these little bugs can be driven out and eradicated. So anyway, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. I hope you learned something. And not my next video, but a video hopefully within the next week. I'll do some audio samples with this. This is going to be a plugin. It's going to take me a little bit to really mess around with, but I bet if I really learn the ins and outs of it, at least this mix one, then my mixes will benefit from it more than likely. So, wow, just wow. What a collection. It should be. It's like 1.5 gigabytes worth of samplings and all that. So anyway, yep, check it out, guys. This has been Adam for RealHomeRecording.com.